evening, everyone. The April 8th Ascension Parish Planning and Zoning Commission is now in session. All rise while we say our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, note that all commissioners are present. Staff introduction.
Stacy Webb, Secretary for Planning and Development.
Lindsay Manda, Legal Counsel for Planning and Zoning.
Ricky Compton, Planning and Development Director.
Ben Moran, Planner.
The chairman has no comments. No general business. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting?
I'll move to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So noted, motion passed. First item, consent agenda, affidavit of mortgage declaration.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So noted, passes unanimously. Item 9A, Howard Moore Properties, family petition.
James Fowler representing Mr. Jesse Rodrigo on the following family partition. This was brought up at the last minute. We're changing access servitude on it. I'd like the commissioner for approval.
Staff comments?
This was approved, I think it was two, 3 months ago, maybe? With the access coming from a different direction than it's coming now, so they had to resubmit to. We recommend approval.
I so move. Oh, wait.
Comments from the commissioners?
Public hearing, huh?
Public hearing? Floor is now open for public hearing. Any cards? Floor closes for public hearing. Any commission comments? Can I get a motion?
I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
The motion has been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes unanimously. Item 9B, Raymond Wild Properties.
James Falgu representing Donald Guidry and Earls and Associates on the following family partition. I don't think any comments were made. We're asking the commission for approval.
Staff comments?
They're using an existing private access servitude to get to the new lot, so the current users of it have to sign this plat, and there's space for them to sign. Their names have been added to it already. So with those signatures, we recommend approval.
Staff comments? This time floor opens. Public hearing. No comments, the floor closes. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll move for approval.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second.
The motion is
With
to make sure everybody
It is
signs,
contingent, right.
contingent on signature.
Motion has been made, second, contingent on signatures. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. Jimmy Abear Property.
Representing Colby Abear on the following family partition, asking the commission for approval. Once your approval on this, we will be submitting it to the Board of Adjustments to ask for a reduction in that setback line that goes through the shed.
Staff comments, please.
If we recommend approval, excuse me, contingent on them being granted the variance they need for that setback. If you look at the lot A4, A2B, the northeast corner of it, you see the shed and the 12.5-foot setback line. So if they can get that variance granted, we
So
recommend approval.
if they don't get that variance granted, does it come back to us? If we make the motion contingent upon a variance getting granted and it doesn't get granted, it comes back to us?
No.
for Approval?
Or
Or
would
it
another
dies?
option be
We
to
would,
go ahead
we
and
would
move
have
the
to
shed?
change the servitude.
You would change the
We'd
servitude?
have to change it to get approved.
Or the other option would be if they, you don't get the waiver, then to move the shed? I mean,
We'd have to tear it down, yeah.
is it on a slab or is
Yeah.
it? Oh, it is? Okay.
Not that easy.
Mm-mm.
Further comments? This time the floor opens for public hearing. No comments, floor closes for public hearing. Can I get a motion?
I'd move for approval based, with the condition being the contingencies of either the shed gets moved or a variance is granted.
And additionally, it's an existing access servitude, so there's users that need to sign this one as well.
And in addition, that all the people sign the access.
Contingent on staff
certificate.
comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
BMT Powers subdivision.
How you doing? I'm Seth Mosby. I'm here representing Mr. Mark McCoy and the DeLaw family. I'm requesting approval of this division, this family partition.
Staff comments.
All the comments on it have been addressed. It's ready. Recommend you approve it.
Comments from the commissioners? No comments from the commissioners. This time the floor opens for public hearing. No comments. Floor closes. Can I get a motion, please?
I so move that we approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second. Either way.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. Vinewood subdivision.
James Falgu again, representing Mr. Lionel Lambert, and following family partition. This was brought up back in August of last year. It was approved, and basically he decided to transfer it into a different son's name. So we have to bring it back before y'all. The transfer has been already completed, and it is already in the son's name, the other son.
Staff comments?
No, the plat now matches who the lot went to, so I recommend you approve it.
Comments from commissioners?
No, sir.
No comments from commissioners? This time, open the floor for public hearing. No comments. Closing the floor for public hearing. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll move for approval.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Public hearing to approve or deny final plat. Shadows of Ascension.
Good evening. Mickey Robertson, MR Engineering and Surveying, 9345 Interline Avenue. Here tonight representing the developer, Level Ventures. All construction has been completed. All punch list items have been addressed and completed. We have some paperwork left to be turned in, maintenance bond, and the final as-built. But other than that, I believe staff is recommending approval, contingent upon us getting them those items tomorrow. I'm happy to answer any questions, and here tonight to ask for your approval. Thank you.
Staff?
Yeah, the plat is ready. I got an email from engineering this evening that the as-built drawings is the last thing outstanding other than the maintenance bond. So once he's turned that into them and engineering tells me that they have no objections, just need to get the maintenance bond signed, recorded, and then this will be ready. So approval contingent on those things being taken care of.
Comments from commissioners?
You're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This time we'll open the floor for public hearing. No comments. We close the floor for public hearing. Can I get a motion?
I'll move for approval with the contingency of the maintenance bond and the as-built drawings being submitted.
I'll second.
Motion made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yeah, he did.
Staff report?
It's 12 seconds.
I don't see a crowd for the next.
So last month, there was a request from the commission to give a sort of state of the union on the subdivisions that have been approved. And so Ben and I have done a little legwork, and we've got a short little discussion that we'd like to have. Since 2008, 5 years and 10 months passed, and 865 lots were approved via the preliminary plat that became final or are under construction today. So 5 years and 10 months, 865 lots. Since we changed the code in October of 2013, 649 single-family lots and 280 multifamily lots have been approved via the preliminary plat and PUD process. Those new subdivisions are going to result in 159 new Class A trees, 320 new ornamental trees, 126 inches of trees being preserved, and around 23 and a half acres of park/community space. We consider that a success because we think we're making a difference. Do I think we can do better? I do. And here's what I want to do. I want to show you a couple examples of some subdivisions that were approved before the code changed and let you understand what they were resulting in. So the first subdivision here was 30 acres, 69 lots, 2.3 units per acre, no parks, no sidewalks, no trees. The second subdivision, 44 acres, 107 lots, 2.43 units per acre. The third subdivision, once again, still before the rules that we enacted, is 60 acres, 158 lots, 2.6 units per acre. So none of these subdivisions are meeting the allowable density because the minimum lot size would not allow that. So we established some new rules that require sidewalks, trees on every lot, and park space be provided, and I'll show you what we're getting. So this first example, I'm going to come back to it. These are two that were approved that have the park space. These locations. The red line represents where they've agreed to build a trail. This one here, 75 acres, 196 lots, 2.61 units per acre with park space. And this example here, the top one is 33.6 acres, 100 lots, 2.98 units per acre. And the bottom example, 30 acres, 90 lots, 3.0 units per acre. So we're getting the increased density that we thought we would get, and in exchange for the sidewalks, the trees, and the parks. In looking at these examples, what Ben and I have started to question is whether or not there are better ways to do it. In today's world, the code, the way it's written, there's no real way to account for how much property you get to include when you build a pedestrian trail. So this example specifically, the way we calculate the density is if the area isn't used as part of your recreation, you don't get to count it for your density. And so the pedestrian trail extends this way and around the pond. But this bright orange area is all the area that they calculated as part of the recreation system. So I'm not going to call it a cheat because it's the way the code is written. If the rec trail provides access to, around, or through the wetland, you count as much of it as you want to get to the density you need to get. We think that if we established a standard, and today, just shooting the breeze, we said, what if it was 25 feet from the center line of that trail? So you no longer get to count what amounts to 300 feet from the trail, which you physically could not get to if it was a wetland or a water body, but count what the trail is actually giving you access to. So 25 feet from the center was just our first blush. There's been a couple of situations where we've seen a dead-end trail. We think the code needs to say you can't dead-end a trail. A trail has to go from a point to a point A to point B. We want these trails to be loops. We want them to be something that when people walk on them, they're not ending up back at the end of something and turning around and just walking back. So that was another thing we wanted to talk about. And then the other issue was parks being located at the back of house. A lot of times when you lay out a subdivision, there's leftover land that doesn't measure out right to do a lot. And so the easy answer is, well, we'll make that our park. And so the parks are shoved back where there aren't eyes on the park, which is what a lot of smart growth advocates or people that are designing communities want to see. You want to be able to see the park so you can feel safe sending your kids there. Otherwise, no one's going to go to the park, or no one's going to allow their children to go to the park that they can't see. So if we were going to revise the code further, we would talk about bringing parks to a central location. How do you do that? It's probably based on a walking distance or some distance from every lot that those parks be located. And there's special circumstances that if there's some special feature that you're trying to locate that park on, you do create situations where you can allow that. But centralizing parks eliminates a lot of the back of house issues. Increase the minimum access size. Today, if there's a park being located back of house, sometimes we'll see that entry throat into the park is only 20 feet wide. We think that entry into the park ought to be the minimum lot size that you're building in your neighborhood. So your park, if the access to a park is behind everything, make the access 50 feet wide or 60 feet wide or 70, whatever the smallest lot is in your neighborhood, make your park access that same width. So it feels more than just a blip, more than just something that the neighbor has to mow. And thirdly, we talked about considering eliminating the 50% reduction in upland area. Today, the code says 8 acres per 1,000 population. So each house generates 2.5 people. So if your subdivision is 100 homes, you multiply 100 times 2.5, so that'd be 250 people. And you divide that by 1,000 and multiply it times 8, and that gives you the required acreage for park. And what we say is 50% of that number has to be upland, a place to play, a place to recreate, throw the ball, throw the frisbee. We allow that 50% reduction if you're going to put a trail or put something that accesses wetlands or stormwater. I would say, why don't we just reduce the 50% altogether and say, if we're measuring it from the center line of a trail, give me 100% of the area measured to a quantity. So there's no more, well, I'm going to draw my bubble out into this area and count that. Use what it actually is. The recreation trail is accessing 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever we decide from the center line of that trail, and let them count that. The third thing that we talked about was alternative street cross sections. We've had a lot of debate in the office about, what if I don't want to build a curb and gutter street? What if I want to build a large lot subdivision and I don't want to do curb and gutters? I want to do swales. Well, there's an ordinance in place that says you can't do open ditch subdivisions anymore. But I still think that there's a place in Ascension Parish for that kind of development. And so what we talked about today was what would we require of that subdivision? The first thing we said is a minimum lot size, frontage. So I think 99 feet minimum, which means 100 foot. At 100 foot, you can go open ditch if you meet some other standards, and the first being lot size, half acre. So a half acre minimum with 100-foot frontage. I think secondly, we would say the swale minimum is 18 feet wide. Why 18 feet? Because what we think is that swale has to be mowable by the property owner. The parish does not want to be in the mowing business. So if that swale is 18 feet wide with a maximum slope of 3 to 1, for every 1 foot down, you're going to go 3 feet over. And for an 18-foot swale, you can go 3 feet down. So 9 feet and 9 feet. 9 feet down, 9 feet up, you've got an 18-foot wide swale. We still think you need sidewalks in that neighborhood. So there's a 4-foot sidewalk. And what we came to was a 75-foot right-of-way, minimum. So you can go to an open ditch section in Ascension Parish with a 75-foot right-of-way and half-acre lots. The last part of that, which is the hard pill to swallow, is I don't think we can allow culverts in that neighborhood. We want the ditches to follow the ground, the driveways to follow the ground. Because what would happen is if you put culverts under every driveway, eventually they would clog. And eventually the parish is going to get called out to clear those culverts. And it's our thought that if the driveways simply follow the slope, the gradual slope of that swale down and then back up, yes, they're going to flood when it rains. But that's how your subdivision is designed. It's designed to work that way. And if we put culverts and allow culverts, you're just inviting problems. So those are, 5 or 6 ideas we want you guys to chew on. We're not ready to put any proposals before you. We just are looking for some feedback or any other things that you'd like us to look at. I think that based on the number of lots that we've approved in the last year and 6 months, we're not slowing down. We are ramping up, and I think we're going to see an equal number over the next 18 months. And I think if we can continue to massage the code, we will continue to design better places that, as we said last month, communities that are worth defending.
Could you, number of trees, parks, sidewalks, would you give me that again?
So we have preserved within those subdivisions 23 and a half acres, and that's kind of a false number because the Silver Oaks PUD that we're going to be looking at the developers agreement this afternoon, they're responsible in and of themselves for 8.5 acres. They're responsible for 21% of that total. But still, I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's 159 Class A trees, so live oaks, magnolias, cypress trees, Shumard oaks, lots of shade trees. 320 ornamentals, crepe myrtles, river birches, smaller multi-trunk trees, and 126 inches of trees preserved. And those are almost entirely within this project, where the trail runs through some environmentally sensitive areas, and they've preserved significant tree canopies in that project. And that one is getting ready to be under construction. That will be the first one that builds our pedestrian trail that's listed in the code. And we'll get to watch this come out of the ground and see what works and what doesn't.
Ricky, in the project you just showed where you mentioned earlier, only allowing to count 25 feet from the center line of the trail out because that's accessible. It's really not. I mean, it's 25 feet out into the pond, right?
Correct.
Not literally accessible, because all you're looking at, it's a view. So it's a view, you're going to have more than a view of 25 feet. You're going to be able to see across the pond, so I don't quite get the point of that. But I would ask also that the comment, you threw a lot of things out, maybe some good ideas, certainly something I'd like to consider. I would ask that you give us all copies of that by email or something, and let us individually look at that. Send us your comments back, and you can compile them, and we can discuss that next time in an open meeting, or if not next month, whenever.
And the way you've got it set up is kind of rigid, I guess. And given that certain pieces of property are not nice and regular and square or so forth, they're odd shaped. I'm just wondering if it's not possible that a well-intentioned developer would want to do it the right way, but these new regulations that we put in would not allow that. In other words, he could I guess follow the spirit of what you're trying to do, but not really get the details of it. And would there be a way to accommodate that?
With anything like that I would call gray, that doesn't hit the black or white of the code, you put language in the code that allows this commission to make that determination. And 90% of the time, if the developer or the applicant doesn't agree with a comment we've made, we tell them, go to the commission and argue your point. That's why they're here. And I would say the exact same thing. If we've written a rule that on a piece of property is not possible, come to this commission, explain to them why it's not possible and what you're doing to cure it. So that would be, once again, the point of this commission.
What efforts are we making, considering infrastructure to support this growth? Utilities, pumping station, drainage, runoff, roads. You know, people are screaming now about drainage and traffic. And once we talked before about a tax probably passed on to developer, if you're going to bring any type of negative impact to what exists, you've got to assist in the situation. So there's got to be some support for infrastructure as we grow.
Right, and I think with Silver Oaks, we saw a great example of that. And, you know, that's a development that came, you know, after a development that wasn't too much before it. It, you know, built a grocery store on one corner, and they're coming on the other corner, and they get hit with a turn lane improvement while the other guy didn't. You know, we're doing our best today to evaluate traffic studies as they come in and to make recommendations to the applicants of, hey, we can't possibly support you unless you're going to do something to mitigate your traffic issues, I'm going to call them. You know, I don't know how soon impact fees are going to pass, but we as staff don't have any problem making a recommendation to an applicant to say, hey, if you want us to make a positive recommendation, then you make a positive effort to show us you're making an effort to solve or potentially help to solve a traffic problem, whether that be through a self-imposed impact fee that may not be passed by ordinance, but something they're willing to help out with. I mean, that's what we're talking about at this level. Until something is passed by ordinance, we can only make strong recommendations and then put the onus on the commission to say, hey, the health, safety, and welfare of the communities is impacted too negatively for us to approve this project at this time. Come back when you've come back with it, when you have an answer or some way to help address the problem.
I think, Ricky, the point about having impact fees, if we do eventually go that route, is to avoid the perception that, or the reality, if you like, that we're coercing the developers into doing something. So impact fees would avoid that situation. I hate to see us, every time a development comes in, we have to sit down with a developer and basically strong arm them to do something that, yes, they should do, but we have nothing to require that right now. I'd much rather see impact fees in place. And I think we'll get to that point at some point. In the meantime, we keep doing what we're doing. You're right. I mean, it's all we have. But I'd like to, in lieu of that, I'd like to see the impact fees imposed at some point.
I'd like to commend the work of your team, because we listened to a lot of developers tell us that, you know, the world was coming to an end because we were putting in all of these improvements, and yet we have a substantial improvement in the parish and the quality of life of these subdivisions, and people are still spending money here to develop. And I think was done because your guys were rational, used best practices, and I just commend you and your team for doing that.
Thank you. That's all I got.
Yes. Engineering?
Not here.
MIA.
That being said, we get a motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? I'm not asking the other part. Adjournment for about 5 minutes.